ever burned the candle at both ends so hard, so many days, or I should say weeks, that you just like collapse, and nothing is broken, but you technically have injured yourself because you're staying up to 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, night after night. And anyway, took my doctor. She came to visit me and my parents and uploaded pictures on the community page. And I didn't get back with my buddy and Tom until like 1 o'clock in the morning, and driving Snaky Roads in the middle of the night. I legitimately, not on purpose, hurt myself just burning the candle at both ends, extremely so. By the way, I was able to get a hold of this. It was incredibly popular. I was going to make some more of those Possibles bags. This is elk leather. It's extremely tough and super soft. Everybody really loves it. There's very few things that are super soft and also too super tough. This is elk, and also too have black buckskin. I was going to make some possible bags. I can only make one black possibles bag. With buckskin is hard to come by, especially in certain colors. That was not an advertisement. Also to have one last green. This is made out of an elbow, like right here where it folds. The elbow, a green alligator wallet at a super special deal. Yes, I made this. This is very lovely. It sounded like I'm making a commercial for myself here. I don't mean it to be that way. I apologize. Hey, at least I work really hard. Like other YouTubers, when they, talk about stuff that they've got, like T-shirts, they never even lay hands on it, much less do they make it. I can actually say that I cut it out and sew it and pound it and stitch it and sand it and all that stuff by hand, so I'm not going to be made to feel bad about things that I make by hand. Something to be very proud of. I wanted to talk about something incredibly important, and I thought about this for a long time, and a lot of people have asked me, and I have a list, by the way, it's in the description below. Top recommended books. And believe you me, there's nobody on this earth. There could be one person, maybe 2 or 3, possibly, that knows the best. I always tell people I can tell what they understand by the books they recommend you read. It's like, not your favorite book, but the most intelligent stuff. That which expanded your mind and helped you, understand things a lot better. And I have those books, and I know what they are. I spent decades looking for the best of the best of the best. In some cases, ages ago, back when I had money, I'd spend thousands of dollars on some books just to get a hold of them. I would scan them in and, kind of part with them because I've already got a copy of them. What's really, really important and good news, especially too, and I've been asked a lot about this, is why I'm making this video. And by the way, the book list is below in the description. And a lot of homeschoolers and others have asked me about this. The really great news is that I, like probably you, went to some form of either private or public school. They had you memorize a bunch of garbage, go home, memorize more garbage, which didn't help you to think. And the important thing is not to fill your head full of empirical facts, episteme, but to put a toolbox in your head. Analogously, this is what's incredibly important. People like Alexander the Great and the students of Aristotle, as well as Plato, Porphyry, who is the disciple and follower of Plotinus, my favorite author in the entire world of the history of known literature anyway. Porphyry, and he himself wrote some really fascinating books. You certainly know it was no Plotinus, but his stuff is quite incredible. These people with the sharpest minds, that really understood and were able to strategize and, worm their way through life easy. There's the hard way to do something, and then there's the smart way to do something. Anybody could, sit there and, break their back and break their bones. And I'm not against hard work at all. I mean, it looks that way because I'm fat, obviously. But life doesn't have to be that way. But you're not going to get that way by regurgitating the garbage that public, doesn't matter if it's public or private school. You go to the best private school that money can buy, the very best. And I know for a fact, because I've talked to me, it's like, what was your curriculum? What were you can't get there from here. But the great news is where people in ancient days, still had to work hard even as young people. How did they end up with minds like I'll give you a couple examples. Roger Boscovich. Well, this is a really sharp guy. No, these people read certain things. Most of the world is absolutely brainwashed into thinking, well, these are some really, really sharp individuals. Their books indicate, what they wrote, like Roger Boscovich, Theoria Philosophiae Naturalis, Nikola Tesla's favorite book. Very, very intelligent. His stuff is impenetrable. That it is, but he wasn't born with that. Certain people are obviously born with abilities. But the ability to think and structure your brain in a certain way so that it functions infinitely better. Built a better mousetrap and did it a lot more simple. You don't get there by memorization and filling your head full of facts. These great people of history who started off as mediocre, some of them, bright, but without reading, and just reading, of course, doesn't confer anything. You actually have to think about it as you read it. It does reorganize your brain. It's kind of like having a messy house. You could have the same house contents, but instead of it being messy, strewn everywhere, full of a bunch of garbage, like, well, I don't need this and this, I'm donating it at the Goodwill. Everything is structured and ordered. It's kind of like me, I never ever have to look for something in my house because it always goes back in the same spot. That way my mental energy is not wasted looking for something. And it is amazing how many thousands of hours every year a normal person, wastes looking for something. So I know it's here somewhere, I forgot where I laid it down. I mean, there's a million examples like that. Anyway, the point being, and I'm getting to it very quickly here, is that by structuring your brain in a certain way, your life will be a lot easier. I don't believe in self-help guru nonsense. I'm not trying to impart any of that, although I kind of a way that I am. I can think of nothing that is more valuable and more important in life than thinking about these particular works while you read them, because they will restructure your brain, just like taking a messy house and I don't need that anymore, and hanging everything on the wall, place for everything in its place. So, the books are over here, the kitchen utensils are, you don't have to think. It's right there. And having that type of toolbox in your head only requires you to read a relatively small collection of books. You could get the best paid education that money can buy, and they could read, X number of, say, 1,000, 2,000 books, standard curriculum from earliest to graduation at the age of 24. You would only have to read less than 4% as much, but you would read it possibly more than once, and you would read it slowly and think about it while you're reading it, not just blah, 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 blah. This is what the book says. However, these books cannot be read that way. You can't read. I laugh at people sometimes, not literally laugh at them. I say, go download Roger Boscovich's Theoria Philosophiae Naturalis. I'll edit that out of this video later. I tell them, your brain will break in two pieces or more trying to read 1 or 2 pages of it. And I'm like, oh, you're right, I tried to do it. It's impossible. But I stuck with it, and I could get what he was saying, and I got more of it and more of it. And I think differently now. I've had so many thousands of people that have read Plotinus and Porphyry and the Pitaphysian. I don't know how many thousands and literally thousands of people that have bought and read the Pitaphysian and had their young ones read it. It's like, man, there's some difficult stuff. It's like, who cares if they got to stop twice per page and look up what a word means? So what? All the better. They think about it while they're reading. They will restructure their brain such that it will be the best tool and the best thing that's ever happened in their life. And say you're my age, which I'm 50, or even 60 or 70, you don't have to be a student to restructure the brain unless it has been soaked in alcohol and other forms of chemicals, which mine is not. You can reorganize and improve your brain. Absolutely. This is not my opinion, not my feeling, not my belief. And you're able to recognize not only the way the world works, but recognize things in other people, that they're blowing smoke up your kilt, when I say the word kilt. Recognize weakness in others and how they use it as a form of subterfuge. People that are emotional rather than being rational. People, like, I don't want music from hyper-rational people because they're not good musicians. And I don't want rationality and logic out of emotional people. Those people are great for taking photos, making paintings, making music, but I don't want to hear anything rational or logical, because 99 times out of 100 they have nothing intelligent to say. That is a simple fact that nobody's taught in high school or college. Hey, these people over here, this whatever person, it depends on person to person. This person is highly emotional and very expressive. Well, that's wonderful if they're making music and paintings and, certain things, designing things, other things, many things. I don't want them, trying to talk to me about a philosophical, logical, or rational debate, because 99 times out of 100 they can't. People that place beliefs before wisdom, you're able to recognize something in someone after listening to them just for a matter of seconds, quite often. And say this person has no interest in wisdom, they're only interested, and they identify as the facade of their belief systems. This is why you can reject people. It's like, this person, might be a good person, but I'm going to reject them because they have nothing really intelligent to offer, because they're all about their belief systems. And I'm not talking about evaluating other people. I'm talking about it helps in absolutely every arena of life. Absolutely, literally every arena. Evaluating people, boom, boom, boom. That's what this person is. They're good for this, but they're no good for that. You don't want to listen to their music, but kind of like a musician, they're always like screeching on Twitter, their own personal views about stuff. And you hear them, they're just, it's so reprehensible. It's like, remember what people say, and they still do say, be quiet and make music. I don't want to hear your views on ABC, XYZ, because you're emotional and irrational. You have nothing intelligent to say on the topic. You're entitled to it. You're entitled to your own opinions and beliefs, doxa, but you're not entitled to your own set of facts. There's no avenue of life that I can't think of that reading some of these primary works, and I'm going to talk about a few of them here. Once again, I have the list in the description below, that won't help and restructure your life. So you're able to see through people, see through the world, see through the propaganda, the lies, the irrationality, the fallacies. Everybody should learn about fallacies. False narratives, of course, is so important to do that now, because literally your life depends on it. If my friends, both of which were offed by the hospital, rest in peace, Skolsky and Vatanen, rest in peace, if they could see through the facade, I saw it, I told people about it, it's like, you're crazy! Now, of course, I was 100% right, so were several other people. You could just see through the lies, like, what's your agenda? Everything, like, ask, what master does it serve? Like, this is going on right now. I see that's what's going on. But what master does it serve that I should follow that? If it serves evil, then of course not only should I not follow it, I should reject it. Having a sharp mind has saved a lot of people's lives in the past few years. I think you know what I'm talking about. But it helps in absolutely every aspect of life. These works restructure the brain to work rationally. It sets up filters against lies and nonsense. I've said this many times, that the worst thing you could have is an open mind, because, totally open mind, your brain falls out. Totally closed mind, if you're very wise and smart, that's fine, but, the best thing, of course, is a gatekeeper. Kind of like your lock on the door. Your door's not open because you take a vacation, you're going to be robbed blind. You need to have an open mind. Like, no, you don't. The lock on the door lets things in that you want to let in, because you gave your wife the key and your children the key, right? You want those things to come in and, ingress and leave the house. I always laugh at this open mind stuff. Have an open mind. Like, no, that's a bad idea. That's how people land in cults. I'm not going to name any of them, even though I was just about to do that. Here's some of the books. By the way, the disciple of Plotinus, his name was Porphyry. He wrote Launching Points to the Realms of the Mind, and letters to his wife Marcella, and two other works which escape me right now. There's a collection of those translated by Thomas Taylor. Thomas Taylor is the most prolific Greek to English translator who ever lived. Absolutely brilliant and off the hook. But even Plotinus was so difficult, even though his books translated from Greek to English would pile up about 5 or 6 feet tall. He still only translated about 30% of the Enneads of Plotinus. I have a couple of the 4-volume set. These are acquirable online. Thanks to me, you're welcome. You don't need to know Sanskrit, however, learning Romanized Sanskrit, which isn't super difficult. It's not that hard, because, you don't have to read Devanagari. You could just read Romanized Sanskrit. Reading, You know, the Principal Upanishads is a 4-volume set. This is the Upanishads. There are many translations of the Upanishads. The other great one is by the former president of India, Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, and it's just one big volume book. You can get them for like 15 bucks, I think, paperback now on Amazon. They used to be hardback, but even then they're like 25 bucks. There's like a billion copies of them. And that one is wonderful because it has each verse, and it has Romanized Sanskrit. It means it's in English. You could just read it. You know, Atta Deepa Viharati. It would be in English letters, but when you actually hear it phonetically, then you know what's being said. So learning Romanized Sanskrit is not super difficult. Sanskrit, of course, being quite an ancient language. But it will restructure your brain. It will help you think in ways that are like, well, you know, that's hardcore monistic metaphysics. Well, I don't really give a darn about that. Why do I need to read it? Because this applies to thinking logically in anything, like car repair. Like, how the hell do the Principal Upanishads apply to car repair or home repair? Because you can make rational, logical, wise, intellectual decisions based upon available criteria and what you know and or don't know. Like, you know, I don't know enough about this. I need to research it. Maybe I'll be purchasing the wrong material. You know, it'd be wiser to do this, which is more efficient, you know, which is cheaper. It helps you in absolutely every avenue of life, including relationships. Not that I've had one of those in a long time, and I really don't care, and I'm certainly not looking. But yeah, this is a 4-volume set, the Principal Upanishads. There's a list of many more books that I'm going to mention here. There's no need to make a video about naming books, but I've been asked about this a lot recently. Here's a horrible title on a book that's absolutely incredible. The contents are incredible. Thankfully, it's cheap now. Worst title in the world with the best contents in the world. It's called Touches of Sweet Harmony. It's fragments of the true teachings of Pythagoras and the mystic metaphysics thereof. People are able to learn a lot. What's not in here is kind of interesting. People ask me, say, why did Pythagoras have something against eating beans? And it has nothing to do with beans. It's that bean represents the embryonic state of life, and by eating a bean, cooking a bean and eating a bean, it wasn't about beans, or Pythagoras cared about, releasing flatulence or, eating beans and against fiber. Is that it represented eating an embryo of life, and symbolically that is the ultimate faux pas, shall we say. The ultimate faux pas, maybe not the ultimate, but pretty darn close. So that's the reason for that. But anyway, it's called Touches of Sweet Harmony. Here's my only living author that I respect. She loves me dearly. She's a sweetheart. She's Irish, retired to Uganda. This is The Unknown God, Negative Theology in the Platonic Tradition, Plato de Origina. This is my author, favorite author. I talked to her. I even uploaded a video she made for me, Deirdre Carabine. This is available really cheap. It used to be super expensive, but thanks to me, you're welcome. Amazon saw a resurgence of this. Like, a lot of people want this book now. Maybe we should reprint it. It's called The Unknown God by my favorite author, my favorite living author. She's a sweetheart, too. Really thick Irish accent, which is fine. I love a thick Irish accent. Part Irish myself. Philosophies, A Rite of Rebirth from Ancient Egypt to Neoplatonism by Algis Udovinus. Also, too, by the same author, Algis Udovinus is Orpheus and the Roots of Platonism. Great book. Another thing to get like a primer on monistic metaphysics and Platonian philosophy is the Didaskalikos of Albanus. That's the Didaskalikos of Albanus. If you don't know how to spell it, it's in the description and the link directly below in the description. 3-volume set of Meister Eckhart's works. He's a Christian mystic. If you're a Christian, two major sources of Christian mysticism and inspiration. 2 authors, not just St. Augustine and a few others, but Meister Eckhart and Plotinus. Number 1 source of Christian mysticism and inspiration is Plotinus, and second is Meister Eckhart's works. Philosophies are right of, I already mentioned that, I'll just excuse me. Number 1, maybe, really number 1 for me. Certainly so, and it's hardcore for a lot of people, but this is too hard for me to read. Just read it, and you will notice very quickly, even after one reading, your brain will be restructured so many more helpful ways you can't imagine. This is by John the Scot, or John Scotus Regina. This is the Pitaphesian. You don't know how to spell it, it's in the description. Pitaphesian, it's on the division of nature. Any and all translations by Thomas Taylor include the works of translated works of Plato, Aristotle, Iamblichus, Proclus, Numenius, Also, too, a collection of Porphyry's works, Launching Points to the Realm of the Mind, letters to his wife Marcella. The third one, which is really important, which escapes me right now. All translated writings from the Neoplatonist Syrianus. That's Syranus. Really hardcore stuff. It's easier to read than Plotinus, but it will very, very quickly. I know of nothing more condensed, even more so than Plotinus, in reading Syrianus. The Universal One by Walter Russell, incredibly important work. I digitized all his works, and they're out there. Thanks to me, once again, you're welcome. All the important stuff out there. I mean, the really important stuff that you can get is been digitized. Thanks to me, you're welcome once again. I could go on, but I have the list below. But importantly, as I said before making this video, there's just no ifs, ands, or buts that, you know, I'm out of shape, you know, I need to be in better shape. There's all sorts of life advice, learning about the stock market, which I never did, which I should have learned. I admit my failures on that front. But of all the things that are important, you know, nobody's going to live forever, right? You know, I could be in the greatest shape. I joke with people sometimes on live stream, like, you know, the super healthy people. It's like, when people are at the funeral, like, oh my God, he left such a healthy corpse. Look at that. Oh God, that's the healthiest looking rotting corpse I've ever seen. Is doing things that will help you in absolutely every aspect of your life. And if I'm lying, I'm dying. A lot of people have taken this advice, people at homeschool, they've had their young ones read these books, like, man, this is really a little too in-depth for them. But man, they're so much sharper now. They've had, a few people have said they had their kids read preteens and teens, read the Pitaphysian. Took them a long time. They said, man, they're so much sharper. They're way sharper than anybody. That's the good news. Once again, these brilliant experts of antiquity, through the 3rd century CE through roughly the 16th century, they didn't fill their heads with tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff. Because you don't. You only need a toolbox in your head. You know, now we have the advantage of, we could ask Siri anything, and Siri knows, you know, worthless empirical facts. Hey Siri, you know, what's the square root of 10,000? You know, something more complex than that. That would be an easy one, right? We don't need that. That's what AI is for. We don't need to fill our head with garbage. They knew back then they didn't need to either. They put only about a dozen important works in their head, and that built a very, very fine toolbox within the mind of these people that we consider to be so brilliant. Many of these people were not born with that. They were just had a toolbox within their head built that made them understand things far more quickly, far smarter, you know, far less, you know, deciphering through garbage. But some other people spend most of their lives sorting through trash of information, either in their head or outside of their head, you know, to arrive at the truth of something. When you have a sharp mind, which is the toolbox inside your head, you can slice through the garbage and get to the root of something. It's kind of like when you're talking to someone that's talking endlessly. It's like, shut up and get to the point. It's that silently that you could do that with everything in life. And when you can do that, it cuts out the fact that you have now more time to do the things you need to expand and, you know, enjoy your life better. And this is really undeniable. And this is incredibly important. And of the 7,500 videos that I've made, I tell you emphatically that this is such an important point, I cannot emphasize it more highly. If you ever want to contact me, my information is in the description below. Also, too, the list of the books. Any donations always warmly welcome. Everything I said in this video is 1,000% true, and nothing is more important. There is nothing more important. It helps with everything. It really does. Without this that I developed early on in life, I mean, I'd be so up the creek, it's not even funny. I could be homeless tomorrow, not that I'm that close to it, but I'll still be able to do fine because I have that toolbox within my head. Everybody's going to drop dead at some point in time in the future. You know, nothing's going to get around that, but that's the biggest tool in life, to get through life. Anybody could get through life working like a dog, and I've got nothing against it. But there's far better ways, and this is the best way. Thank you so much for watching.